This story happened in the Scottish city of Glasgow in 2015. On April 11, 2015, 24-year-old Karen Buckley went to a nightclub with her friends and never returned home. Karen was born in 1991 in the Irish city of Cork, the daughter of John and Marion Buckley. She was the youngest and only daughter among 4 siblings in her family. Karen graduated from St. Mary's Secondary School in Mallow, where she was described as a kind and caring person, always willing to help others. Her desire to assist people greatly influenced her career choice. After completing high school, Karen enrolled at the University of Limerick to study nursing. Her interest in occupational therapy led her to the Scottish city of Glasgow, where she began studying for a master's degree at Caledonian University. Karen arrived in Glasgow in January 2015 and moved into an apartment with 3 other female students who were also newcomers to the city. On April 11, 2015, she and her flatmates went to a nightclub located about 2 kilometers from their home. They arrived around 11:45 p.m. and had a good time. Around 1 a.m., Karen told her friend she was going to the restroom and would be back shortly. She took her belongings and left, leaving her jacket on the table where the group was sitting. While her friends continued to have fun, at some point they realized Karen had been gone for a while and should have returned, but she hadn't. Her friends searched for her in the club, but Karen was nowhere to be found. Attempts to contact her by phone were also unsuccessful. The friends Karen was with thought she might have gone home, although it was strange that she didn't tell anyone and left her jacket behind. Upon returning home, they realized their assumptions were wrong. Karen wasn't there either. The only thought that came to Karen's friends' minds at that moment was that she might have met someone at the club and left with that person. With this idea, they went to sleep. When they woke up around noon, Karen's neighbors were surprised to find that she had not returned home. Attempts to reach her by phone again yielded no results. Karen did not respond to messages on social media and didn't log into any of them. Although Karen's friends had only known her for a few months, they knew this behavior was not typical of her. Instead of inventing another version to reassure themselves, they went to the police and reported her disappearance, informing the Buckley family of what had happened. The Scottish police deserved credit as they immediately began searching for Karen. Her disappearance was reported in the press and on television. Karen's parents made an appeal for anyone with information about their daughter's whereabouts to contact the police. Meanwhile, detectives received footage from the cameras at the nightclub where Karen was last seen. Upon reviewing it, the police discovered that she had been in contact with an unknown man 36 hours after her disappearance on April 13. The identity of this man was established, and he was brought in for questioning. The young man's name was Alexander Pacto, 21 years old. He admitted to having met Karen that night and that they had gone back to his apartment on Dorchester Avenue, approximately 3 kilometers from the nightclub. He also disclosed that they had been intimate. Around 4 a.m., Karen decided to go home, despite Alexander's invitation for her to stay until morning. Alexander also stated that during their intimacy, Karen hit her head on the corner of the bed, resulting in a wound and leaving marks on the sheets. This information elicited a mixed reaction from the police. On one hand, Pacto seemed to want to be forthright, on the other, he seemed to be preempting events and trying to explain what the police might find if they searched his apartment. On the same day, April 13th, a man contacted the police to report that he had found a woman's purse. Upon investigation, it was discovered that he found it in the park near Alexander Pacto's house, and it was Karen's purse. It contained her phone and documents. This discovery made Pacto's version more plausible. It's possible that something happened to Karen after she left his apartment. Meanwhile, the search for Karen continued actively. Hundreds of police officers searched parks, forests, bodies of water, and abandoned buildings hoping to find any clues that could assist in the investigation. At this stage, Alexander Pacto was the sole suspect in the eyes of the police, being the last person known to have seen Karen. Investigators didn't disclose information about the suspect and kept his name a secret. However, 2 days after Karen's disappearance, when police conducted searches at Pacto's apartment and the surrounding area, journalists found out about it. Reporters from one of the newspapers talked to other residents in the building, and since then, Alexander Pacto's name ceased to be a secret. This is important, but we'll return to it later. The police obtained a search warrant for Pacto's apartment. When they entered, the first thing that caught their attention was a strong bleach smell. They also noticed that the mattress on the bed did not match the bed size. Small dark red stains were found on the bed and in the bathroom, samples of which were sent for testing. A toolbox and a large quantity of cleaning products were also found in the apartment. A police dog trained to search for bodies indicated something suspicious near Pacto's car. While waiting for a search warrant for the vehicle, detectives found out that Alexander Pacto had taken his car for cleaning at a salon the day before, but apparently, the service was of poor quality. During the search, the same small dark red stains were found on the inside of the passenger door, and samples were sent to the laboratory. With each new discovery, suspicions grew that Karen was no longer alive, but the search for her continued actively. As mentioned earlier, journalists managed to uncover the suspect's name, and the following day, a photograph of Alexander Pacto was featured on the front page of one of the newspapers. Surprisingly, this step taken by the press ended up being useful for the investigation. A man who saw Pacto's photo in the newspaper called the police and provided interesting information. He said he had worked with Alexander some time ago and knew that he rented a shed on a farm on the outskirts of Glasgow. The address of this farm was about 9 kilometers from Pacto's apartment. Any lead was important, and the information obtained was investigated. The farm owner confirmed that Pacto rented a storage space for £10 a week. This was where Karen's body was found in the storage unit. Inside, they found a 200-liter drum containing Karen's body, which had been dissolved in caustic soda. Caustic soda is a highly reactive alkaline substance that can dissolve organic compounds. They also found a bonfire with remains of a mattress that Pacto tried to burn. On the same day, April 15th, he was arrested as a suspect in Karen Buckley's case. Understanding that there was a significant amount of evidence against him, Pacto confessed to being responsible for Karen's death. However, he claimed to have acted in self-defense. Based on the evidence found by the police and the suspect's statement, an approximate timeline of events on the days when Pacto took Karen's life and tried to cover his tracks was compiled. On the night of April 11th, around 1 a.m., Karen left the nightclub. It remained uncertain why she did so. Her friends claimed there was no argument between them, and Karen said she was going to the bathroom and would return. Even if we assume she decided to go home for some reason, it is still unclear why she left her coat behind. The officers working on the case reviewed a total of 1,900 hours of surveillance camera footage. In one of the recordings, it was seen that Karen crossed paths with Pacto after leaving the nightclub. After a brief conversation, they walked together towards where his car was parked. It is believed he offered Karen a ride to her apartment, but instead, when they got into the car, he attacked her. Pacto assaulted Karen 14 times on the head with a large spanner, resulting in her death inside the car. The dark red stains that investigators found in the car turned out to be dried drops of Karen's blood, as well as stains in Pacto's bathroom and bed. After disposing of the body, he began planning his next steps. First, he got rid of Karen's purse, which was later found and taken to the police. Around 2 a.m., he arrived home. What he did next surprised the detectives considerably. He transferred the body from the car to his apartment. At 8 a.m., using the phone, he started searching the internet for information about caustic soda. After that, he went to a shopping center where, at 9:42 a.m., he bought 6 liters of caustic soda, a respirator, and gloves. He thought that 6 liters wouldn't be sufficient, so on his way home, he stopped at another store and purchased more caustic soda. Upon returning to his apartment, he placed Karen's body in the bathtub and attempted to dispose of it. Pacto did not live alone. His apartment neighbor was expected to return around 8 p.m. Realizing he wouldn't have enough time to complete his plan, he removed the body from the bathtub, wrapped it in a blanket, and hid it in his room. The next day, April 13th, he threw a spanner into the River Clyde, where divers found it. Then, he went to a shopping center about 1.5 miles away from home, where he sought assistance from an advisor. He asked for a product recommendation that could remove bloodstains from a mattress. He also bought 2 padlocks on the same day. On that day, he took the mattress, bedding, and Karen's blanket to a farm where he burned everything. On the way back home, he bought a barrel to later place the body inside. Around 2 p.m., he took the barrel to a rented shed, poured the rest of the caustic soda, locked the door with the 2 padlocks he bought, and went back home. The police visited him at home at 6 p.m. and took him in for questioning. You already know what happened next. Despite Pacto confessing his guilt, his motive remained obscure. He claimed to have taken Karen's life in self-defense during an argument that arose in the car, but investigators didn't believe this version as it seemed to be an attempt to justify his actions. The police assumed that by killing Karen and subsequently disposing of the body, Pacto tried to cover up another crime. However, due to the degree of decomposition, experts couldn't determine if Karen had been a victim of violence before her death. In September 2015, Alexander Pacto was found guilty and sentenced to life imprisonment with the possibility of parole after 23 years. Through his lawyer, he apologized to the Buckley family, stating his remorse. Pacto told his defense lawyer that he was heavily intoxicated on the night of the incident and couldn't remember why he took Karen's life. It's worth noting that had he not pleaded guilty, he would have been eligible for parole after 25 years instead of the 23 years.